Share screen. Okay. Om Pranaya Namo.
Om Pranaya Namo.
Pranaya Namah.
Yasya Sarvamidam Vashe.
Yasya Sarvamidam Vashe.
Vashe.
Yo Bhutah Sarvasyeshwaro.
Yo Bhuta Sarvasyeshwaro.
Ishvaro.
Yasmin Sarvam Pratishchitam.
Yasmin Sarvam Pradishtitam.
Pratishtitam.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.
Okay, so any questions? Hi, Uma.
So that last paragraph about that prana,
Mhm.
I am a little unclear about that Atharva and Angirasa thing.
Mhm.
So it does not refer to those sages, or is it a pun on the word sages, those two sages' name, which means, firm and dedicated and spreading to the thing. So is that meant to be like a pun and not necessarily to be taken literally as a...
It is a pun. So
Hmm.
on the one hand, rishis like them is the meaning, and on the other, those two names have been chosen because of the qualities that they signify.
Quality, the properties that
Yeah.
it would be the breath. If the breath would be like it will go through all the parts of the body and it will be very firm and
Correct.
determined. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions are there? Okay. Then we shall have a recap.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, fourth one. That is quite simple, even though it is long, but it is per se, the meaning is not very tough.
Yeah.
Can I
Anybody
ask
wants
a
to take it, or
Go on, Uma.
So, what is the difference between breath and prana?
Sorry?
What is the difference between breath and prana?
Yeah, so that is a good question. But
Prana is transporter, you say.
Huh?
Prana is a transporter. That is what I understand it as from the commentary.
Huh.
So then what is the breath? See, when some person passes away, they say the prana is left, and then it is interchangeably used. The breath is stopped. So
Yeah, so the breath is, you can say, the external manifestation of mind. Okay, Prashanti, there's some
breath is a type of prana, no? Actually,
background. Yeah. So yeah, sure. Breath itself is prana, and prana, the original prana, is something which is subtle. So it is, while it is made of matter, it is a subtle form of matter which is there. So even in Sankhya, it is said that prana is a vayu, so, which makes it one of the elements. So it is manifested as vayu, you can understand, which is the breath. Okay, but otherwise prana exists in each and every cell. It is making sure that the cell is functioning. So as you can understand, you cannot, it's not the breath which you can say exists in every cell. So prana is something subtler than the vayu as well. Okay, so the external manifestation is the breath, but it is something more than the breath too.
okay.
Okay. So let us.
I will summarize the
Good. Do that.
fourth verse, is it?
Yeah. Fourth.
So here, actually, see, the chapter starts with the second of the Shishyas asking the question, and his question is more about who are the Devas. Of course, Devas is referring to the elements of the body itself that gives life, the various aspects as Devas, and then the Rishi is going on and answering about that. And in that sense, when he praises, when he says these prana and others are these Devas, then about the Varishta, he uses this philosophy of friendly banter or argument between these devas, prana and the other shaktis of the body which maintain it in its life form. And when the others berate prana or ignore him, then prana rises and sees, when I am rising, all of you are rising. When I am resting, all of you rest. In the sense, he gives a little jolt to the remaining senses to say, you are all dependent on me. In a demonstrative fashion. So here the Pippalada is beautifully describing it with an upama of how when the queen bee chooses, all the other Madhumakkhiya will go with her, and when she chooses to rest at a certain new place, they will rest alongside her. And that's how the colony's life exists. So in the same way, prana is here is compared to the queen bee, of course referred to as the king here, and the other life forces as the other auxiliary bees that maintain the hive. So in a beautiful way.
Correct. Okay. So what about the next one? Fifth one?
I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Prashanti, you go.
Okay.
So, so here the fifth one goes to say, this prana is the Agni, Surya, and the waters, and the Vayu, and Prithvi, and even the Rai, and everything. And Sat, Asat, and Amritam also. This means to say, actually, not taking literally, but these all exist. The whole Panchabhutas exists, or this existence, that what we call as the primordial matter, as well as all the transient things, that is what is referred to as the Asat. These all exist because for the life to sustain. So because of the prana, we need all this system. If there is no life, then we do not need this whole Vishwam to exist also. So because of that, the existence of these matters, and Amritam here referring to the soul, which is eternal.
Yeah. So why is prana called the soul also? This is a question out of the syllabus.
Why prana is called
the soul too.
I also, Uttara, I joined late, but I also had a lot of confusion. At times, I thought I understood when you said, okay, the prana provides the animation and all that. It was nice to hear. But at the end of it, still, I also have that question in mind. Is prana and soul the same? Otherwise, do we have three entities here? The body, the prana, and the soul. And then at death, actually, the body is no more, or is not there functional anymore. Soul goes. Then where does prana go? And how does the soul need, like Prashanti was asking the other day, to be in the moon, or to be in heaven or Swarg? Does the soul also need the prana? She was referring to whether you need the body also, whether you will have a body there. But does it have to have a prana also? So what is the real connection between prana and soul? is something that has been,
Mysterious.
making me think also. That mysterious, correct.
So
Basically,
the thing
I
is
am
that
intrigued. Yeah, I am intrigued.
your voice is getting cut.
The body, the soul, and then the prana.
Yeah. So firstly, there are two entities here if we discount God at this point, since God is not directly entering the picture. So there is matter and there is this soul. Okay. So soul is the main animator of beings. If there is no soul, there is no creature anyway. Okay. So soul is something which is given and which is immutable. It actually doesn't change in any way. So that is why that till now is not really being talked about too much. So what are we looking at? We are looking at what else is there in this creature, what is it constituted of, and what are the external factors also which are giving rise to life. Now there, as matter transforms from the primordial prakriti down to what we can see ourselves with our senses, there are in between stages which are subtler than what even the senses can trap. And some of these things make up what is known as the subtle body of a soul. So this subtle body consists of the senses, both the five jnanendriyas and the five karmendriyas, plus this prana as well. Okay, so this and mana as well. Okay, so all these form a subtle body around the soul. Now this subtle body is invisible to the senses, that is a given. The peculiarity about this subtle body is that it is attached to the soul at the beginning of creation and continues with it till the end of creation. So this is a body which is not given up at the time of death. It continues to stay attached with the soul. And one of the main things which goes along with it are the sanskaras, the impressions which you have gained during this life. That means you were attached to certain things, certain other souls. That those attachments, you hated certain things, certain souls. That dvesh, that rag and dvesh, these things, sanskaras are imprinted on this subtle body, and you carry this along. Plus also actually even knowledge. So knowledge also is carried by means of this uh, subtle body into your next birth as well. Now, so there is this subtle prana which is not visible, which has no indication per se. Only when it moves into a gross body. So gross body is what is made up of the five elements. Okay. And so when it moves into this gross body, this complex which is there of the soul and the subtle body, it moves into the gross body. It is there then that the prana manifests itself, you can say, and appears as breathing. Okay, now this breath, see, is a, you can see it is not common for all beings. Fish breathes in a different way, an earthworm breathes in a different way, a starfish will breathe in a different way, a plant breathes in a different way. So, but they all have prana in them. Okay, so just equating directly with prana is not correct. This is the breath in the human and in a lot of other animals is a manifestation of that subtle prana, and that manifestation is different in different beings. So this prana is made of matter itself, but it is subtle matter, and it manifests itself as breath or some other way in different creatures. Long and short is that it is the basis for life. It is the life force which ensures that life functions in each and every cell of which the creature is made. So when now coming back to the death part, now when the soul has to leave the body, it leaves along with prana. So you saying that the prana has left the body or the soul has left the body actually amounts to the same thing, because they leave simultaneously. However, prana is material and the soul is immaterial. Immaterial as in not without any value, but not made up of matter. Does that solve
So
it?
when you consider the body, the breath is the one, we said the soul is the one that gives it a life, right? So is that understood that the breath also is a part of that?
See, the soul animates the being, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Okay, without the soul, there is nobody there to comprehend anything, to feel anything, to sense happiness or sorrow. These are not sensed by prana.
Okay.
Prana only provides life to each cell. So just like there is a cell sitting over here, which senses very little, okay, which does not feel any emotions, which does not feel anything in it except maybe touch and pressure and temperature. Other than that, it is not feeling anything, and there are other cells in the body, for example, connective tissue, which will not feel anything, including pain. So those things, while they are devoid of the animation, in a sense, okay, very loosely, because the soul also does connect up, but it is connecting by means of prana. So prana is there in every cell. The soul itself is sukshma, and it is not expanding its reach actually per se in the body. That is happening via buddhi, ahankar, mana, and prana.
Okay.
Okay, so prana is the life force. It is yeah.
So subtle
Thank you.
reference of this is given in the 7th sutra, I guess, where we talked about it coming in the, when the soul enters the sukshma sharira along with the subtle form of the prana also enters the garbha.
Correct.
So now going back to what you said, when at the beginning of the creation itself, the sukshma sharira is attached to the soul. So for a jivan mukta, or for somebody who is realized and has gotten the mukti, liberation, sukshma sharira is gone, I am thinking. Is that right? Or it's only the,
For jivan moksha, that is not correct. Only for those who have achieved moksha and who have left this body.
Yeah, that's what I mean. People who do not come back again.
Yes, those who have attained moksha, they drop this body as well, the subtle body as well.
The subtle body. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand. Yeah, so only the current sharir probably is left with them.
Correct. Right? So that reminds me of one of Shanta's question on Chandra, on the moon. Which body is there? So on the moon, the subtle body will stay with you, but the gross body is not there. And that is what is meant by punaravriti, that it comes back again to life. So there is no life there in the sense of that there is a body. Okay, but prana continues to exist in that subtle body which remains attached in the case of this Chandradi lokas. There you will continue to have them. You will just enjoy some bliss for a while, depending on the amount of good karmas which you have accumulated, and then you will return to earth to start living again in a body. All right.
But
Okay.
it is important to note that whereas we do know about Sharira, Atma and such terminologies from other Gra studies, in this specific text, they are limiting themselves to this Rai Prana distinction. That's it.
Yeah. So Pipalad wants to give you, elaborate to you the importance of Pran. Okay, that is one of the big takeaways from this Upanishad. Okay, so I was asking you a question that why is Prana called the soul also? So now I think I have given you some clues as well.
Yeah, some answers. Because along with the soul comes the prana.
Yeah.
The soul is the one which enlivens everything. So that is why it is equated to the prana.
Correct. Okay, so always
And also it departs together.
yes.
So
So it is intimately linked with the soul. That is why, and both of them are the main causes of life. So both have been equated together. So always, we in a Western way we have a way of demarcating very clearly. This is this and this is this. But here, the demarcation will be shown, and yet their linkage is indicated through equality. Okay, in our text. Okay, ara iva rathanabha prane sarvam pratishtitam. Who's going to take that up?
I can do that.
Vidya, go ahead.
Try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is another upma, like it says, just as the axle supports all the spoke of the wheels and, transmits the power to it, supports it basically. So in the body, the prana is the one that supports the whole body. That is one part of it. The second part of it talks about the different Vaidika mantras existing again for the prana.
Yeah.
So of course, mentioned in what they mentioned is only Rig, Yajur and Sam, but this typically means only the type of mantras that are available. For example, in Rig, there is more Padya. I mean, there is Padya. In Yajur, there is Gadya. And Sama, there is more musical denotion. So we have to understand that even Atharva is, covered in this. So all the Vaidika mantras are existing for this, plus the qualities of learning and protection that are typically attributed to the Varna, Brahman and Kshatriya. Even those are there only for the prana. Basically, again, saying that, the prana is all important, basic in this.
And Yajna?
Because without somebody to learn and, all this qualities, all these traits, all this mantras will be of no use, just as the world would be of no use.
Correct.
So it's
What about
extending the
Yajna?
unit.
Yajna?
Yajna too. Yeah.
What does Yajna
The
mean?
Havan too.
So Havan is only one part of it. All good and benevolent deeds, important deeds in particular, are to be read as Yajna. Okay. Then Prajapatish Charasi Garbhe Tvameva Pratijayase. Shanta, you would like to pick up? Uma, would you like to pick up? Or anybody?
Prashanti had hinted at this, so I think she should explain.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody.
So
Yes, go ahead.
I can, should I?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, so here,
It moves in the womb
yeah,
and protects the. Yeah.
It moves in the womb, like I said, when before when the soul enters the garbha, along with this in the sukshma form, even the prana, the subtle prana also enters the garbham. So with that, it is associated that the subtle breath is associated with the subtle body, which enters the garbham. So, and it moves around and present in every being that is born also.
Yeah.
And all the food that we eat, etc., is kind of to this is actually treated as a present because it gives that life force and the whatever is needed for the life to sustain within. So here the rishi equates that to a present given to the life. So
Correct. Correct. Right. Then the next one, the 8th one, Devanamasi Vanitamaha.
Basically, I think here Pippalada is also concurring with Prana's claim that he is the central axle or the transporter of the remaining life forces or devas, which are remaining indriyas, etc. So that he is confirming here, and he is kind of extending that with the further qualifications of how prana is, that it is stable through the description as the Rishi Atharva, and that which is the rasa of the angas as angirasa of the basically again describing prana in two different ways using Rishi's name, he explains.
And
I don't know how the forefather comes into the picture, but yeah, that is there.
Yeah, it is actually the nurturer even before the usually the pitra is the father, mother are supposed to be the carers of the child, right? But in this case, the first nurturer,
is the prana,
which is the wealth of the body, is the prana.
Prana, correct. And then what is the Rishinam Charitam Satyam? What is the truth?
So like, I think the beginning you clarified, no? That just as the rishis know how to control their pranas or do the pranayam, and which kind of helps the prana to become firm and steadfast, and also, reach out to every end of all ends of the body, like permeate everywhere. So, so I think that's how the examples of the rishis were given.
Yeah.
And
so all acharan, which is there, all kinds of modes of behavior which lead to the enhancement of life, we should follow that. That is an implicit teaching in this particular verse. Okay, so then the next one.
Just one. The soul of the Upanishad seems to be like, there is matter and then there is soul. Of course, Paramatman being always there, and for the soul, all this matter and everything works for the soul. Basically, I think that's the heart of the Upanishad, and soul being given importance because soul is the one which needs to try through the matter that is given for the liberation.
Yeah, but more than the soul here, the focus is actually of dividing up matter itself. Okay, so on the one hand, in the first chapter, we said that matter can be split into two parts. One part is the one which is forming inanimate objects, and the other part is the one which is part of bodies of creatures. living creatures. Okay, so that is a different type, you can say, of matter or configuration of matter which is there. Okay, so first he split it into that prana versus rai. Now,
So Rai, I understood as the one which you consume, and prana is the consumer, or prana is the one which is making everybody animate, or the one that is not destructible. Is that like we related it to
that is
Aditya?
not the soul that he is talking about. He is talking about the material prana only. So don't confuse it with the soul. All this he is
Because
talking
we
of
equate it
material
to
prana. So when he says
right?
prana is a deva, then he is not talking of the soul. He is talking of the material substance which is called prana.
Because somewhere I remember we were equating it to Chandrama and Aditya and said that which gives happiness, that is the matter, and that which never, जिसका खंडन नहीं होता है, which is indestructible, that is the prana. Yeah.
No,
So
Aditya there was the soul. You are right over there. That Aditya was the soul, but here the prana in this chapter that we are talking about.
In this chapter, the prana that we are talking about is the conscious life, or probably
so
the
I
life
would call
itself.
it consciousness. So consciousness is provided by the soul, but life is provided by prana.
By the prana, yeah.
I think this is a good essence of this whole thing, this chapter, which I think is confusing you all. That consciousness is provided by the soul, and life is provided by prana.
Correct.
Soul is not made of matter, is immaterial, and life is a material trait, and the basis of that life, the fundamental basis of that life is prana.
Prana.
In the first chapter, we were seeing how life gets created. What are the causes which lead to the creation of life? In this one, we are now looking at what is it that sustains this life.
Okay.
So, this body is such a beautiful machine which is working in such a complex fashion that some scientists, had tried to make the alimentary canal by means of gadgets, equipment, all glass tubes running over this thing, and heating provided somewhere, acids provided somewhere, and so on and so forth. So he tried to make the same kind of system which works in the alimentary canal, just the alimentary canal. And that whole system took up the whole room. One large room was filled up with tubes and burners and chemicals and so on. So you have such a fantastic machine which is doing so many operations simultaneously and without you having to interfere in any way. It is happening automatically. So that is being done on the basis of prana. Prana is providing the motive force for all those operations.
But Uttara, why do you then call Pran as material? Because we earlier, I thought we learned that in the beginning that there are two things, Rai and Pran. Rai being material, Pran being non-material. Now you are saying this is material.
So Pran by itself is material. In certain verses in the first chapter, we did start talking of the soul by means of Pran. As I've told you, here in Indian text, no, you will not have this very, very cut and dried difference between things. If there is a very intimate linkage, they are equated with each other. Or even if they are, if you want to show that some traits they share with each other, then also you say. For example, we learned that it is Surya, it is the rain, etc., etc. Okay, so if now you say that it is saying that rain is prana, then that is not correct. So there, yes, the soul came in a certain context, but prana is what is being the one which is being referred to here is material prana. But again, we saw it is Yacha Amritam also is written because he's equated it to the soul as well. But again, it is only to be taken as something which is so close to the soul that they cannot be separated in the body until the soul acquires moksha.
And I think in this chapter, it's being used more to explain explain the answer to the question that what is the most important, or which is the most varishta of all the forces that sustains life, right?
Yeah. So life is the main focus in this chapter. So
Yeah.
Prana is the main life provider. That is the whole idea of this chapter, and so the Prana is being eulogized.
Understood. Thanks.
Welcome. Okay, so we'll end here and we'll start the new session.